right, folks. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to August for those who are just catching up and realizing it's August. I am so glad to be with you all this morning. It is the first meeting of the new academic year, which is super exciting. We're ready to have students back in a couple of weeks. Well, at least we're getting ready. So I just wanted to spend a couple minutes this morning before we turn it over to our first speaker and just do some level setting for the year. We had such a great time in July at our employee forum retreat, getting to know all the new delegates, getting to socialize with one another, and really getting excited for the coming year and to do the work that we're here to do, representing staff here at Carolina. I want to say to all of the folks on this call, delegates, dignitaries, our usual speakers, the leadership team, everyone, I mean, we're all here to make Carolina better, and we're here to represent and advocate for staff. And I just want to make sure folks are assuming the best of intentions from everyone here, because we're all here in service of this place that we all love so much. So I'm looking forward to working with you all this year. And we're excited. It's going to be a great year. And with all of that said, I am excited to have Interim Chancellor Lee Roberts with us this morning, and we're going to do our usual Chancellor Roundtable. So glad to have you at the first meeting of the year, Lee. Welcome.
Morning, Katie. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Appreciate you dialing in on a summer Friday morning. But as Katie says, summer is rapidly coming to a conclusion here in Chapel Hill. School starts 2 weeks from Monday, which is hard to believe. But in the meantime, I hope everyone's had a really great summer, and I hope everyone is paying attention to the Tar Heels, the dozen Tar Heels we have competing in Paris in the Olympics. So we have 2 U.S. women's field hockey players. We've got 3 women's soccer players, 2 for the U.S. team and 1 for the New Zealand team. It's her 3rd Olympics. We have 4 swimmers and divers, 2 for Israel, 1 for Canada, 1 for Mexico. And we have an American wrestler, a Canadian rower on the women's rowing team, and we have a male Australian tennis player. So that's been a lot of fun, very exciting to watch. We also have 25 student journalists from the Hussman School, both undergraduates and recent graduates, who are covering the games in Paris. We're the only school in America with this official Olympic news partnership. So very exciting thing for the Hussman School and for Carolina. Obviously, a lot of work here in South Building and across the campus to get ready for the new semester. A couple of updates to share with you. You will have seen the guidance from the system office. I think last time we were together, we talked about the DEI policy, and I think maybe we were waiting for system guidance last time we talked. I can't remember precisely, but we do have the system guidance now, and we're required to report back to the system on implementation. All system schools are by September 1st, so in just under a month. Working through the next steps on that. You might have read in the Well that Associate Provost Leah Cox is leading that effort, and Leah is going to be stepping into a role in the Provost's office that has been held by Amy Hertel. Amy Hertel is going to be at UNC Pembroke for the next year on a leadership assignment. So exciting for both of them. We also have the 4 working groups that I've mentioned before. They reported back yesterday, August 1st. So those working groups are tasked with updating the strategic plan around enrollment, engineering, artificial intelligence, and the physical master plan for the campus. I think maybe some people thought that the work was done when the working groups reported back, but of course the work is just starting now that we have the recommendations and have to implement. So a number of you served on those task forces. Thank you very much for your time and commitment to that effort. And as I say, we're looking forward to digesting the recommendations and then working forward to to next steps and implementation. We've also talked before about the after action report from the shooting on August 28th and the recommendations made in that report. We've done, I think, a good job implementing safety measures that includes more cameras, better cameras, license plate readers, better coordination among our camera systems, but it also includes training, extra training coming out for faculty and staff. I know we've talked a little bit about that before. I think that will serve as well. It was clearly identified in the after action report as something that we could do better. And we also announced new parking rates for faculty and staff. This is I would like the new parking policy to get more attention than it has gotten so far, in part because it just represented an enormous amount of work from the folks involved, but it's also a highly progressive policy in which we were able to lower rates for many employees and for students. We simplified the system. There were 78 price points. Now there's just 13, so it makes the system much easier to navigate. So greater affordability, greater simplicity, especially for our lowest paid employees. So I'm hopeful generally that the work that's been done by all sorts of folks across campus over the summer puts us in a really strong position for the fall. I'm excited, as Katie is. I think we're set up well for a terrific fall, a terrific semester. Look forward to answering any questions that any of you all may have. Thank you again for having me here.
All right, thanks, Lee. Questions for Interim Chancellor Roberts? Y'all, it's a Friday morning. Don't be quiet though. Come on, question. Sarah.
I noticed that the after action report recommended training, as you said, for faculty and staff. I saw that the faculty training has been rolled out. Is there a timeline for the staff training?
Katie, you know more details about that than I do.
So I had a similar question because instructional faculty, I believe, got an email yesterday about classroom training that is being implemented, which didn't exist before. And I know training exists for faculty and staff prior to even the shooting, but it had to be requested by unit. So I'm kind of trying to navigate the new training myself and understand, is there a new training for staff or is it just for the instructional faculty?
We will get you the details on that. I believe we'll get you the details.
That would be great. Yeah, I think that the thought and the hope would be to have kind of a more than just instructional faculty receive that training, because I know I, as a frontline staff member, was having to work with students and navigate what that meant for them back in August. So yeah, it would be nice to have that.
By all means. I think someone just put something up in the chat about the instructional module, but we'll get you all the details.
That would be great. Thank you. Other questions, really great question, Sarah. No questions for Lee? Keith, you're smiling big. I don't know what that means. I'm a little scared. Sarah has her hand back up. Sarah, you have another question.
Sorry, apparently I'm just full of questions this morning.
That's great.
About the more cameras, license plates, readers, etc. Is there a facial recognition component to the camera systems that will be across campus, or is it just like, what does that look like? How does that work?
Yeah, no, I'm not aware of an automated facial recognition component to that. The problem we had with our cameras was we didn't have them in enough places. Not enough of them were connected into a system that allowed us to see the footage in real time. And there wasn't a centralized place where you could see the footage that was available. Obviously suboptimal in terms of managing any kind of crisis like the one we had on August 28th. So The idea is not facial recognition. It's that we just have more cameras that have the ability in more places that have the ability to generate live footage back to a central location, to our emergency management location. And then the license plate readers, that is a recognition component specifically focused on license plates. We learned after August 28th that we were actually significantly behind many of our system peers and other peers around the country. This technology has been deployed pretty broadly, which we hadn't recognized, I don't think, before quite as fully as it has been, particularly on campuses like ours that are entirely open, where people drive on and off all the time. So it's just a way of being able to track which cars are on our campus, and those license plate readers are up and running now. They've been installed since the end of the spring semester.
And as always, Christy Hurt has all the answers and put in the chat that online training for staff is coming. So stay tuned. Excellent news, Christy. Thank you. Arlene, your hand's up.
You may not have an answer for this yet. Is there any word on deferred maintenance being handled? I know there's been conversation about it. Is there an update about it?
Just deferred maintenance generally?
But actually being handled.
Well, so we always have and this is always going to be true. It's always been true, and it's always going to be true, that there is our list of maintenance needs, repair and renovation needs, is always going to be longer than our available funding. And that just goes with the territory, particularly with a campus that has as many older buildings as our campus has. And so that places a premium on having a really good methodology for prioritizing your repair and renovation projects, your deferred maintenance projects. And the physical master plan working group, which, as I say, just reported yesterday, was looking at that along with two other aspects. What should we do about new capital projects, and how good is our data about capacity utilization? So, for example, how do you know if you need a new classroom building if you don't know how well you're using your existing classroom space? But that R&R, repair and renovation component, it's never something you cross off your list and say we're done with deferred maintenance for now. You just try to make sure that you have a good process in place for prioritizing projects, and I believe we're making good progress on that.
Great question. Sarah's got another question. I love it, Sarah. You've got the energy we're excited about this morning.
I mean, happy Friday, y'all. I read that there has been no movement on renaming. Since we're talking about building maintenance, this just popped up for me. The renaming of the buildings that was recommended by the committee that was created, there has not been recent movement. Is there an update around that? Is there a reasoning for that? I
can tell you where it stands. So there was a commission, as you likely all know, on history, race, and the way forward, that made a series of recommendations, many of which are in implementation. For example, restoring and repairing the historic cemetery, addressing the unsung founders monument, which a lot of people think is could use maybe a better location and a better platform, and the renaming of buildings. So they submitted their recommendation on the renaming of buildings to the Board of Trustees. It's the trustees' responsibility to take that up or not take it up, and that's where it rests. They've submitted their report to the board. That happened shortly before I stepped into the interim chancellor role. I can't predict for you what the trustees are going to decide to do, but it's up to them to make that decision.
Thank you.
Other question? I have a question.
Yeah,
So right next to your little square on my Zoom screen is Rick Wernowski, and I said hello to Rick earlier, but Rick is our trusty operational excellence guy, and I just am curious if there's any operational updates, fun things that Rick wanted to share with us to start out the year. I'm always eagerly watching the things that y'all's team is doing, and I know staff would be really excited to hear anything about operational excellence's plans for the coming year.
I share your enthusiasm, Katie. Rick sends out a regular update of all of the terrific things that the operational excellence team has underway. I'm an avid reader of that update because they always have a bunch of really interesting things going on. So, Rick, we're eager to hear from you.
I just put you all the way on the spot. I'm so sorry.
Absolutely. Thanks, Katie. And thanks, Lee. At least I know one person is reading my communication. So I appreciate that. We are very busy right now. We just wrapped up, as Lee said, we were supporting 3 of the 4 Chancellor's priorities. So enrollment, applied sciences, and Gen AI. So we worked with the groups of putting that together. Lee also mentioned about space utilization. Many of you are aware that we were working on a space project on the demand side, and that we did that in the administrative space work. We're now expanding that to look at classroom patient space, and research space. And then as a follow-up, we'll be starting a project around utilization and how do we define utilization on campus, kind of putting definitions around low, medium, and high usage there as well. Another project we're working on is faculty hires. And some of you might remember the work we did on staff hiring about 5 years ago, looking at the full process around faculty hires. We're just starting to explore work around data and creating central dashboards for data usage for the schools. So expanding some of the opportunities there as well. I'm trying to think what else we have going on. Credit-bearing certificate programs. We looked at building an administrative model. We kind of figured that out, and now we're looking at the campus services related to those types of non-degree students. So we have about 10 to 14 or so projects that are ongoing at different stages, but we are also supporting the History Race and the Way Forward, the Tar Heel Bus Tour. So a number of things that are kind of going on, but happy to always talk to people offline. And again, always please feel free. And that's why I kind of sit in on this part of the employee forum to hear if there's other things that you all want us to be looking at. Please feel free to reach out to us.
Rick, is that all y'all have going on?
Yeah, that's about it. Maybe a couple other things.
Yeah.
And Keith just gave a shout out to Nick, who is the GOAT in y'all's unit too. So yeah, great team over there, Rick, for
So
sure.
we got Simone Biles and the GOAT so far today.
Yeah. Liz, your hands up.
Hey, Rick, I was joking in the chat, but honestly, I missed the department you said you were working with on that first round of things. It sounded like a clinical research department. Can you just remind me of which department that was? I think I wasn't paying enough attention. Need more coffee.
Oh, sure. No, that was on the space project on the demand side. And so we started out, we piloted it through the administrative space, but now we've kind of developed a process. So now we're looking at clinical or patient-facing space, as well as research space, as well as instructional space. So it's just an expansion of the work that we did on an administrative space. I think that's what you were maybe referring to.
Well, to clarify, I'm in ophthalmology, and these all sound like problem solving and strategic solution developing issues that we would benefit from, but we are sort of out in the boonies. We're outside the scope of most people's awareness. I just wonder if that was a specific department you were working with, or School of Medicine, or clinical research?
No, it's not a specific department, but through our discovery work, we have engaged with the School of Medicine, dentistry, public health. We've covered most spaces that potentially have public facing, but certainly happy to have someone on my team or myself reach out to you to get some insight as we go forward there as well.
Awesome. I'll connect
and-
with you later on. Thank you.
Yeah, please just send me an email and let's find some time to connect. Always helpful to get. We do an extensive amount of work on a discovery side before we kick off projects, so we're still in that phase on that expansion project.
Excellent. Other questions for Interim Chancellor Roberts? No?
I do have one. I guess I could walk across the hall and ask this, but are we, is it anticipated that South Building will stay locked down indefinitely? Do we have a timeline on that? And I think it's just great to mention that in this forum, because people come to the South Building and are banging on the doors. I'm not sure how to get in, but just wanted to put that out there and see if we know a timeline on that.
Yeah, I think the plan is to continue the card key access until we see how the semester goes, but we do need a better way of letting people in rather than just having them bang on the door. So we'll have a buzzer system.
Thank you.
Great question. I know I benefit from having Tiffany's cell phone number in my thing to be able to get it when I get to South Building. Arlene, your hand up.
And yeah, this is one of those things that it's on the border, but it's not in progress yet. Any word on the pit changes? I'm sure it's still in design phase, but I just want to hear updates.
Yeah, I don't have an update for you on that. I know that the big problem is drainage. And I know enough about real estate construction to know that drainage problems are always challenging and take more time and more money than you hope and believe that they will. But as far as I know, you're right. It's still in the design and planning phase.
As an alum, it's going to be really hard to see changes in the pit, but alas.
Everybody wants to preserve
Wonderful.
the character of the pit. We just don't want it to flood.
As an alum, don't really care. Don't really care.
I do.
The folks on the internet, they seem to care.
When I saw the plans pop up, I was like, immediately no. But the one with the tree surrounding that doesn't split the pit in two was the most palatable, I must say.
Oh, it popped up and I was like, oh, she cute. And I went on with my day.
Oh, okay. With that, any final questions for Lee before we move on to the next portion of our agenda? No? Well, as always, Lee, we really appreciate you being with us, and you're welcome to stay on if you'd like, but I know you've got a busy day ahead. So, yeah, thank you for being with us.
Thank you all for having me. Hope everyone has a good Friday and a great weekend. Enjoy the last 2 weeks of summer. It's going to be an exceptional semester. Thank you for everything that you're doing. Look forward to being with you again soon.
Thanks, Lee. All right, folks. Well, I'm actually really excited about the next portion of our agenda. I had reached out to Amy and Chris recently and really wanted to get them here to kind of talk to the forum about what they do, because it's really great work. So Amy McConkey, who is the Director of State Affairs here at UNC, and Chief Strategic Officer and Secretary of the University, Chris McClure, have joined us today and are going to talk a little bit about the work that their team does advocating with the state legislature and state government relations overall here at Carolina. And I know staff are really eager to hear about this because a lot of the things staff care a lot about happen at the state level, and really some of the work that y'all's team does to kind of chat with legislators about Carolina is really critical to kind of advancing some of the things that staff care a lot about. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Amy and Chris, and they can talk to us a little bit about the work that they do. And Chris kind of brings some of the perspective of Board of Trustees, because I know board members also kind of do a lot of advocacy work on behalf of the university as well. So it's a unique process by which things float from here at Carolina and in Chapel Hill up to Raleigh and over to Jones Street. So welcome and thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Katie, and thank you for having us today and allowing us to kind of introduce ourselves and our division, Public Affairs, to the forum. And, I'm going to speak briefly and turn it over to Amy and let her talk more about our state affairs. And I want to kind of talk more broadly about kind of our public affairs work, and then we'll answer any questions you all have. As Katie said, she introduced who we are. My job is, I am the Secretary of the University, which means I work closely with our Board of Trustees as the Assistant Secretary of the Board, but then Secretary of the University. But also, all of our public affairs work report into me, our federal, state, and local. A lot of what we do as being a public state institution, our state affairs is crucially important. It's extremely important to this group, as this group has been critically important as we advocate for employee raises, other things over the years. I look on the screen and I see Shana Hill, who one of the first people I got to know when I came to Carolina was Shana, and we've worked on a lot of different issues, but that has been one that we've worked on over the years. And I want to say having her in her role and a system-wide role is Carolina can be proud of her, and I know you all are. So great to see you here, Shane. But it is what we do, and we are very fortunate in Carolina to have Amy, and I want her to speak very broadly and about our state affairs. But we are your advocates in Raleigh, and Amy is there every day working with our legislative partners, our partners in the executive branch, to advocate on behalf of our employees, our students, about the needs of. There was a question about deferred maintenance. We talk about our facilities needs on campus. We talk about our public safety needs on campus. But our university is our people, and that is you as our employees, it is our students, our faculty. That is what we talk about when we talk to our folks in Raleigh. We're fortunate we have a number of Carolina alum in the legislature that care about the university. There are, whether it's Republican, Democrat, the university has a lot of friends on both sides of the aisle. Yes, there are political issues at play, but I truly believe on both sides of the aisle, the importance of the flagship institution of the state, everyone understands that. And so as you get down into the issues, there's disagreement, yes, but the importance of Carolina being strong and its people being strong is something I think everyone agrees in Raleigh. So with that, Amy, I'll let you kind of talk more in the details of your day to day, and then I know we'll be glad to answer any questions, Katie.
Great. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Katie. Katie, it's been awesome to get to know you over the past couple of years that I've been on the team. Thank you, Chris, for that great introduction. It's an honor to be before this group. You do important work, and you're an important stakeholder of certainly of the universities, but also of the team at Public Affairs. The advocacy work that you do really matters. And so we want to be a resource to you. As Chris said, sort of the face of the university to the state legislature, the state executive branch, working across the aisle to advocate for our priorities and for your priorities. So I'm so glad to have this introduction to your group. This is the first time that I have, and I'm grateful to Katie for the invitation, the first time I have been with you. So I want you all to know me, to reach out to me when you have questions. I want to be a resource. And so I'll put my information in the chat so you all have it. And again, it's I know the legislative process can be, it's every year is a little different. The players change, the issues change, And so we want to be helpful, navigate that for all groups on campus, but certainly for this one. So a little bit of background. I came to Carolina 2 years ago. I'm a graduate of UNC-Chapel Hill, political science and journalism. So it's great to hear the Chancellor's discussion about the Hussman students who have been covering the Olympics in Paris. That's certainly a proud an honor that we have. That's great to see as a graduate. Got my start in public policy work. Really, I caught the spark here at Carolina. I did not grow up in a terribly political household, but I always loved current events, got involved at UNC, wrote for the Daily Tar Heel, wrote for the editorial page, wrote for the city desk. So I got to report on the happenings at the town level and at the county level. I started going to meetings of the the education boards and the local boards. So really caught the interest in local politics during my time at Chapel Hill. It was life-changing, and started off with an outfit called the North Carolina Insider. It's my first job in politics outside of or after graduation. Did that for a short time. The News and Observer acquired the Insider, and before that acquisition happened, I pivoted over into advocacy work. So worked for various trade associations, worked for a large law firm in Raleigh, and also a small little boutique lobbying firm before having the opportunity to come here. So it's a huge honor to represent the university. And I'll jump in a little bit to sort of the day-to-day work, how we interface with various stakeholders, foremost being the legislature, and what that kind of looks like throughout the course of a 2-year biennium. So the process really is, we start out and we work hand in glove with the system office. So certainly we look to our, Becky Mangini, Linc Butler, and those running our HR function, understanding the system office and that approach to employment issues that we will take jointly with the system, and then kind of follow that process as it is vetted through the UNC Board of Governors to then, sort of arrive at our priority list for the first year of the biennium. And then there's a sort of a regrouping and understanding what we might need to tweak for that second year of the biennium. So as it stands now, we have worked through, a budget was passed in October of 2023, as you well know. And that budget included pay raises of 4% in the first year of the biennium, 3% in the second, which we were happy to see. It was overdue. State vacancy rates have remained high. This continues to be an important talking point for all state employees, but certainly the university system and us in Chapel Hill, an important competitive issue as we work to bring on faculty and staff to come work here and to hopefully stay here for a long time. So that budget passed in October of 2023 is the current budget we have operating, because as you all know, we are deadlocked in budget negotiations for the short session. Senate and House just have not been able to see eye to eye on what they want their budget adjustments to be. The budget that was passed in October of last year, honestly, it just hadn't been in place for very long. So I think there were some who were comfortable with letting that budget continue in to this fiscal year. But there was, the House did decide to go it on their own this past session, and they went ahead and released their version of a budget. That budget included a 1% raise additional to that. And that's 7% that was done in over 2 years in the last year's budget. There would be an additional 1%, bringing that second year increase to 4%. So that was the House's proposal. They also proposed a 2% cost of living adjustment for retirees. They did not. The state treasurer's office had proposed some extra funding for the state health plan. That was not pursued by this House budget. The Senate then in turn issued a different kind of budget. It really did not have any changes at all to raises, and it was a very bare bones plan that really sort of continued on that budget passed earlier in 2023. And so as it stands now, you know, the budget continues to be discussed in conference. It is unclear what will happen. I think it depends upon who you ask and what day you ask them. We continue to monitor it very closely, working with both you know, organizations that are advocating for state employees and also members of the legislature, checking in on where that stands, weighing in when we can, expressing our needs for our UNC system priorities, and then our campus specific priorities that ran through the Board of Governors, and certainly our process here. So that kind of brings you up to where we are now. And we're in a bit of a holding pattern. So we continue to wait. The adjournment resolution that was passed before they took this summer pause included dates each month where the legislature will return. They returned just this week, the House did, to override several vetoes that the governor had. 3 bills that had been vetoed by the governor. The House went ahead and overrode those vetoes this week. They have additional days where they will return. We don't know yet. I mean, they have the option to return. We don't know yet whether there will be votes when they come. We expect that there will be a lame duck session after the election, and the election will really determine, right, the agenda and what happens in that lame duck. And then we start the process all over again, leading up to January of 2025 and the next biennium. Of course, we have elections. All 170 members of the legislature are up for election. Of course, the Council of State as well for the statewide elections. And so it will be a busy season in politics. And we wait. And we wait and see what the dynamic looks like going into 2025, and make adjustments to strategy and think through priorities for the next year. And sort of that's the continuous cycle that we are in. So, so Katie, I hope that is sort of a helpful overview. I'm glad to take any questions about the process and about how we can serve your group.
So I know about this, but maybe you could give a little primer on the work, not only that we do here at the state level, but your team and cohort does at the federal level as well, just so folks are aware. I know I come to Board of Trustees and hear from y'all and y'all's team all the time, but most of the folks don't. So it'd be cool to hear from that.
Yeah, I'm glad. So Kelly Dockham is our colleague. She's the Director of Federal Affairs. Kelly works with our partners in Washington, D.C., our congressional delegation, not only members of Congress, but more importantly, the staffs of the congressional delegation. And then the agencies, the NIH, the Department of Education, other agencies, and she works closely with Penny Gordon Larson and our research folks as we look at grants and other things and our research divisions and our different schools that are involved in research to really build our research portfolios, because as this group knows, many of you work in our programs that deal with research. A lot of those dollars are federal dollars, and our federal affairs works closely to identify those, works to help secure those with our research. And so our Director of Federal Affairs, we work closely with our partners in research on federal affairs issues. And then Public Affairs is rounded out with a Director of Local Affairs, Dr. Ivy Taylor, who recently joined us. She's actually the former mayor of San Antonio, Texas, who has since moved back to this area. And she's recently joined us as our Director of Local Relations. And so that is kind of our public affairs team.
Great, thank you. Questions for Chris, Amy, our public affairs team? Arlene.
How much does having the School of Government on campus impact, if at all, what y'all do?
I'll start and Amy can answer. Our School of Government, our partners there are we work closely with Dean Wall and our partners, School of Government. I equate the School of Government, our friends at NC State have their cooperative extension program where they go out into every county and they have a presence in every county through their ag extension programs. The School of Government is our cooperative extension program. We touch every municipality and county through the School of Government. We train local officials. So does it directly impact our lobbying efforts? No, because they're nonpartisan. They don't get involved in that. But it is a huge part of our public service portfolio. And it is a lot of times when someone is elected to the legislature, it may be, if they're not a Carolina alum, it may be their first introduction to Carolina when they come for that training and that orientation. For those of you who may not be familiar, the School of Government does a orientation for all new legislators. It is a nonpartisan, here's what it means to be a legislator. Here's what bill drafting does. Here's what fiscal research is. It is being a legislator 101. And whether you're Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter. You still have certain processes and procedures, and that's what the School of Government teaches you. They do the same thing for mayors, council, sheriffs, county commissioners. So it really is our avenue into every local community in the state. So while it is not a direct lobbying tool, it allows us to get into a lot of places that otherwise we wouldn't be able to get into.
Great question, Arlene. I've had that like Schoolhouse Rock, how a bill becomes a law thing, like just like stuck in my head as I'm listening to this conversation. So like
when my wife and I first started dating, she's
For us to meet,
nurse practitioner, and she had no clue what a lobbyist did, and so that was how she learned.
Love it. Other questions for Chris or Amy? I think we have a question in the chat. Michael says, if the state legislature no longer has a supermajority as a result of the elections in the fall, how will that affect the possibility of additional salary improvements, which are key both to recruitment and retention? And is there any concern that the lame duck session, if they lose their supermajority, will act to get anything punitive or harmful to the university or employees passed while they have the chance?
As I said in my opening remarks, I don't see any, I haven't seen any sentiment on either side of the aisle that wants to punish the university's employees. I mean, are there times where either side says, I don't like this or that, whether it's a university or K-12 or community college? Sure, there's, whether it's, a policy or whatever, but as far as the folks who are in the trenches doing the work, and let me just remind you, Amy and I are part of this forum. I mean, we're employees of the university. We're not members of the faculty. And so they recognize that many of them have students who are university or will be members of our student body. So they recognize the hard work folks do here. And I just don't see that scenario. No matter how the election turns out, I don't see anything like that happening.
Yeah, we have a great tradition of support for higher ed, really across administrations, across legislatures, and we work very hard to, as Chris said, most folks almost universally understand the importance of the university, and this is really the crown jewel of our state. We always have work to do, right? And to, fine tuning some of that understanding. And, and I know that higher ed feels like become increasingly political. And so I certainly understand the concerns there, because we all read the headlines. We all, we all see the same things. Certainly understand, but I think overall that support for higher ed broadly is going to exist, regardless of what happens in November.
Michael, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, I appreciate the work that y'all do, and I appreciate the position that you're in having asked that question. I'm going to say that it more than feels like it has become politicized. It feels day to day, and I can tell you that I hear this from my colleagues who ask me about it because I'm in the employee forum, like we have become a political football ready to be kicked whenever it is convenient.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that, Michael. I certainly do, and we all hear that and feel that, and it just it continues to these jobs are so important, right? Because there are waves of political activity in certain places, and we continue to advocate broadly, reiterate the important work, remind folks what the university means to them, to their immediate family members. When they experience it firsthand, it can change and soften some of those hard feelings. But I hear you.
Liz had a question in the chat. What will happen to the Center for Health Equity Research? Does anybody know anything about that?
I'm
not familiar.
I don't know of anything that's going to happen. I'm not familiar with anything that will happen with that center other than it will continue, but I mean, I can find out and get back to you.
Thank you. Jay, your hand's up. We can't hear you for some reason. You're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Maybe you want to put it in the chat. I can read it out for you. Oh, yeah, we can hear you now. Perfect.
Sorry. Switching back and forth from work from home and office. Is there a ballpark number in terms of state funding for UNC comparing, say, 15 to 20 years ago to what it is now? Because my perception is, while there may be general support for higher ed, the amount of money the state is investing in higher ed has declined fairly dramatically over the last 15 to 20 years.
Amy, I think you have some numbers in front of you. I will say, I do not think that is the case. Amy has the actual numbers, and if we don't, we can get you those exact numbers. But I think it's important to say the state of North Carolina, comparative to other states, invest heavily in higher education. And it is one of the reasons we've been the UNC system as a whole in Chapel Hill has kept tuition flat over the last 8 years. It can't do that without strong state support. The state of North Carolina is our largest contributor by far. And so that message gets out that the funding for the university is cut, and if we don't have that handy, I apologize, and we'll get that to this form, but overall state funding has actually increased, if I'm not mistaken, year over year for the university.
No, that's correct. In the last budget, over $566 million of state funding came to UNC-Chapel Hill. And we can certainly provide for the forum a trend line of the past couple, 10-15 years. Glad to produce that.
And that trend line will show a steady, it will not show a decrease at all. It's a steady increase.
That would be great. Thanks, Amy and Chris.
You bet.
Other questions? If not, I want to leave us with a couple of comments. So Amy, thank you for putting your contact information in the chat, so folks can reference that. I will say, you ask if, you know, you can ever be helpful to us, but I would offer the same back to you. If we can ever be helpful to you and your team, I know a lot of working with the state legislature is telling a story and telling them the awesome work that Carolina does. And a lot of that work is done by staff. So if there's ever a need to highlight staff and the amazing things that staff provide to the state and are really helping state taxpayers, so yeah, if you ever need any stories or things that we can help shine a light on some of the awesome things that staff do here at Carolina, please do reach out. And I just am so glad that we had an opportunity to hear from you and your team. We hear a lot from Scenic, who helps lobby and advocate for state employees. So it's good to hear the other kind of work that's done to advocate at the state level for UNC-Chapel Hill. So we're grateful for the work that you and your team do, and I'm glad to have delegates kind of hear about it, because I get to selfishly hear about it at Board of Trustees more than other folks do. So I'm glad to share that, shine a light on that work as well. So thank you both.
Thank you all.
Thank you all very
Look
much.
forward to hearing from you and being in good touch going forward.
Excellent. Thank you both. Have a good
Thank
one.
you. Uh-huh.
Bye.
Great weekends. Okay, let me pull back up my agenda. If I am not mistaken, I think we have gotten to the portion of our agenda that we always look forward to, and that's our human resources updates. I know Becky is out of the office, so we've got our trustee Linc Butler here with us. Thanks for being with us, Linc.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be back. I think the last meeting I was out of the office, and so Becky was flying solo. Well, not solo. She had Jessica with her, of course, and I have the same. It's good to be back with you, and you know, just buying into the sharing the love for colleagues a little bit here, but you know, seeing Rick Murnowski, seeing Amy, seeing Chris, it makes me very thankful for all the colleagues and expertise that we have to lean on and tap into, and including all of you. So thank you for all you do. I'm going to jump right in. It's no secret, it's August. You know, the start of the semester is here. We know it's going to be a busy one. It always is. The legislative increase that was mentioned earlier has been applied in this month. And I know that typically we're still in budget negotiations and we end up getting the LI guidance later in the year. But for the first year in a while, it seems like we had it all from the system office in time to apply it in both the biweekly and monthly payrolls in July, which I know excites a lot of folks. So those have been applied. To follow up on some updates that I think Becky has been given pretty consistently around the new EHRA and EPS range project that is going on at the system office. Work is still continuing on that. We're still active participants in the working groups around that. The focus still seems to be from the system office on making sure that whatever we end up with works for all the campuses in the system, both from our end of the spectrum of being, you know, the largest to even the smallest. I don't have details to share with you just yet. We're hoping to have some, if not by the next meeting, perhaps in October, but more information to come on that, and work continues around that. Once the new structure is in place and rolled out, of course, then we'll begin the planning process for identifying windows for future SHRA to EHRA conversion opportunities for folks to opt in if they choose to do so. In addition to that, sort of switching gears a little bit, of course, the Chancellor already updated you around the work that's happening around DEI. We're engaged with the Provost Office and working with each of the campus units that have impacted positions to provide advice and guidance there. The focus really continues to be that the university's commitment hasn't changed. But we are going to have to be more thoughtful and strategic in how we redistribute that work and be more deliberate in our efforts for student support, as well as faculty and staff development. So more to come on that, but we are engaged. We continue to partner with the Office of the Provost and with the Chancellor's Office on that. Looking ahead to the fall, it's hard to believe that open enrollment is just around the corner. And so more information is going to be coming out very soon about those dates. be on the lookout for that. And of course, the flurry of reminders to take action, because we want to make sure that when that open enrollment period opens up in October, that folks are doing what they need to do around their benefits. As Rick mentioned earlier, we have a really engaged design team around looking at the faculty hiring process, trying to identify what resources can be created, ways we can create efficiencies, and generally speaking, make the whole process easier to navigate. Some really great work is coming out of that, and I'm very excited about what we're going to be able to come back to you and share once the final recommendations are in place and the work is finalized of exactly what steps we're going to be able to take around that. So some really great stuff. Highly engaged group of folks from across campus in all spaces, which is why it's been so good and so successful. Also, right around the corner is Employee Appreciation Day. That'll be October 18th. And you'll be seeing some announcements about that in the next Workwell that gets issued. And this body in particular has always been so amazing in volunteering for that day and helping us pull it off. It wouldn't be as meaningful, it wouldn't be as successful as it is without the work of the Employee Forum. And so again, a big thank you to you, and I'm hoping that we'll see tons of volunteers this year as well. So more to come about that. We're almost into the next Carolina Cares, Carolina Shares season. That'll launch on October 1st. So more to come in the Workwell. And something to give you a kind of a heads up about, which will also be in Workwell, is that we are engaging in kind of a long-term renovation of our website. We're looking at ways to make, this isn't going to be the kind of renovation where a new website is built and then we have a launch date and all of a sudden we have a brand new website. We're being very thoughtful and strategic about which sections that we're revising. We're trying to make it more focused for faculty and staff to be able to find things more easily on it. As you might guess, our website is one of the larger ones on campus. There's just a ton of information. And I think we've got a really great plan in place with our communications team to really tackle that in chunks. So what you're going to likely see over the next 6 to 8 months, even 12 months, is an evolution of how our website is structured, and hopefully make it much easier for folks to navigate around that. Outside of that, we are going to be starting in the fall. We think we're far enough in to using the recently implemented, I say recently implemented, it's been almost 2 years now, bonus programs. And so we're going to do a more, I think we have enough data where we can start doing a really good analysis of how impactful those bonus programs have been. I think more anecdotally, what we're seeing is that the retention bonuses seem to be more impactful. The sign-on bonuses have been helpful, but we're just not sure that it's been driving the kind of impact that we expected for things like our applicant pools. But we're going to be taking a deeper dive into that into the fall, and then hopefully should be able to report back out to you after the first year on what we're seeing, what the trends are, that sort of thing. So with that being said, I'm happy to take questions before I pitch it over to Jessica to provide her total well-being updates.
So I had a question. So you mentioned the upcoming open enrollment period, and I know we've got the conversion to Aetna happening as a part of that process. And I think I had mentioned this to Becky at a recent meeting, but I think I would love to see us work together to potentially maybe host a listening session or an information session with HR and the benefits team to shine a light on that process, allow folks to ask questions. And really just publicize that in advance of open enrollment opening. I think it would be a worthwhile opportunity to kind of share some information and assuage some fears before folks kind of dive into the open enrollment process. Just because there's still a lot of questions floating around out there. And I know your work, your team will obviously be working on how to get the word out there. So I would love to partner with you all, potentially having even a joint community meeting where we invite folks and have kind of Q&A session, or like you guys provide information and then have folks have the opportunity to ask questions.
Happy to do that, and I'm sure Joe Williams and his team will be happy to do that as well. So let's make sure we're coordinating offline and see if we can start looking at some dates.
Great, thank you. Questions for Linc? Sarah.
Kind of in the same thread of partnership and holding some kind of an open info session. I heard you talk about the conversions of EHRA to SHRA, and we have been getting mixed reactions, some frustration, not just confusion about why it's happening in general, but about whether or not people can opt out. Is there a plan? Could we make a plan to host some kind of info session where that is more public, more readily discussed, about the ins and outs of both what that is, why it's happening, and what choice and agency people still retain as employees?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. And for those of you who may recall, when we were navigating through this by functional groups, many, many years ago, it started with IT positions, and of course, accounting, business, and finance. We held information sessions in advance of the election periods for those groups. Now, this process is much larger, of course. This impacts not just one kind of occupational group or another. Our initial plan had been to do that again in advance of any election period that gets scheduled. But if you feel like we need something sooner rather than later, then we can talk about what that might look like and how it might fit in with the overall sort of plan. Again, we don't have opt-in sessions scheduled yet because a lot of that is dependent upon the EPS and EHRA salary range structure being finalized and rolled out. But yeah, if we think that's something that's needed. I do want to sort of reiterate to this group and body, and something we can talk about when we do the information sessions is it is elective. Now, what that means is for those of you who may be in SHRA positions that are wage hour exempt, you would be provided with an elective opportunity, and it's not, you wouldn't be compelled, you wouldn't be forced. It would be something that you would decide whether or not you wanted to convert to EHRA or remain SHRA. That said, any vacant positions that come open that are wage hour exempt, they do get automatically converted over to EHRA and then are posted as such for folks to apply for. So, but those are the kinds of things that we certainly could cover in an information session. And I think maybe Katie, again, we can talk about what that might look like and when the timing might be right to do that.
That'd be great.
And just sorry, as a tiny follow-up, are there, for the info sessions, either that you did hold or plan to hold, are there language interpreters for the people on campus who need this information but are not English first language speakers?
Yeah, so the populations that we've seen that we typically work very closely with campus units on for that have historically been in our facilities area because we have a variety of different dialects, and we always work to try and make sure that items are translated or that we hold sessions with translators, that sort of thing. So that is something that we will be thinking about. I can't recall if we did that during the ABF conversion period. That's something I'd have to check on, but it is always something that we like to pay attention to and are sensitive to.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I thought I saw Rebecca's hand, but it's not up now. Did you have a question, Rebecca?
No, that was called not being able to operate Zoom on my phone. Sorry.
You're good. Chrissy, you have a question.
Hi, Linc. I was just wondering, I put something in the chat. So during one of the rounds of conversion recently, we had 4 same position type, and it just so happened when we were going through the conversion, we had 2 that were open and unfilled and 2 that were filled. And so we converted the first 2 that were open, and then we're just waiting for more information about the last 2. And so we were just wondering if there was going to be a plan in place to offer conversion to the filled positions, just so that everybody's kind of the same designation doing the same job.
Yeah, no, great question. And yes, that's the conversion period that I was referring to a little earlier. So again, once the EHRA ranges are in place, we'll then schedule opt-in opportunities, and that'll come along with information sessions. So anybody in a filled position that is eligible to be considered for a conversion from SHRA to EHRA, they'll have the opportunity to make that choice. But they may choose to remain SHRA, which is perfectly fine. That being the case, and what we're seeing across campus a lot, especially as the vacant positions automatically convert to EHRA, is we have, and I have this in my own shop too, we have positions working side by side doing the exact same thing, but some are now EHRA because they were vacant, converted, and recruited for that way. Others are still SHRA. So it's a challenging proposition, and I don't know that we're ever going to get out of that because it is an elected process, and we don't want anyone to feel like they're compelled to choose or to convert over to EHRA in a filled position. We have to give them agency and allow them to make that choice for themselves.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Great. Are there questions for Linc before we turn it over to Jessica? Not too much of a hot seat today, Linc, I don't think.
Well, you guys are always kind to me, and I appreciate that. So thank you so much.
We appreciate you immensely, Linc. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Okay, Jessica, our favorite part of the meeting, wellness updates. Yay.
Thank you, Katie. Good to see everyone. Quick sound check. Do I sound all right? Okay, perfect. I love when that part works. Welcome back. I hope you all had a wonderful July and summer and retreat. We did not see you last month, so I hope that you had a great July. I did want to start off, regardless of whether the students returning back to campus directly impacts you or not, I wanted to bring to your attention the upcoming well-being days and what that means for staff. So, of course, well-being days started back in 2021 for students. Last spring or in the spring, we promoted these as no meeting days. And so I want to let you know that that is continuing. The days are set for the fall. And the specific days may change moving into future semesters. That hasn't been determined yet, but they are set for the fall. And they're the Tuesday after Labor Day, that's September 3rd, and Monday, September 23rd. So know that we strongly encourage these to be no meeting days to give you a more peaceful work day. And of course, if you want to use your vacation time or personal observance leave, you're certainly welcome to do that, but we're hoping this makes your day a little bit more peaceful, a little bit more calmer for you to go through your day at a calmer pace. So let me know if you have any questions about that. Link's still on as well. Something that's changing from spring semester is, there was a survey that went out in the spring. There was a lot of feedback from staff. It was kind of 50-50 on people who wanted more resources. Yes, Keith, September 3rd and 23rd. They're both September. Some people wanted a free day with nothing on their calendar. Some people wanted opportunities to engage in some kind of wellness activity. So we do have some virtual opportunities for both of those days. So there are 2 to 3 opportunities for both of those days, with the September 3rd coming up pretty quickly. It'll be here before the next meeting. I did want to just call out that at 10 a.m. we'll have a session on supporting employees' well-being, what you can do as a manager. If you're not a manager and that interests you, participate. We're not going to be going through anyone's credentials, but if that interests you, please participate. The other one is more for anyone to participate, and that is breathing techniques to relieve stress and improve health. That's at noon. These webinars are provided by Guidance Resources ComPsych, your EAP provider. They're about 45 minutes to 60 minutes, just depends on the topic and the presenter. We also will be calling out in the newsletter that comes out later today, bringing your attention to that Total Wellbeing on-demand library that has webinars, resources across a variety of topics for you to reference, and then reminding you of your EAP resources. that resource is there for you, both to browse the online library that they have, which is very extensive, but also to reach out and get connected with a certified counselor for any issue, big or small. In addition, our August calendar for our regular Wellness Wednesdays on the 7th of August, we'll have Managing Worry and Anxiety. August 14th, we have Emotional Eating, the connection between mood and food. And on August 28th, we have Languishing, Flourishing, and Your Mental Health. So those are our lunchtime webinars for those Wellness Wednesdays throughout the month of August. They can all be found on the Work Life and Wellness calendar on the HR site. That's either on the home page at the very bottom of the screen, or if you click on that Work Life tab at the top, you can easily find it from there. We are also bringing a new program to Carolina. We're kicking it off at the School of Government later this month on August 19th. It's an employee nutrition program. We're partnering with Lifestyle Medical Centers, which is a Raleigh-based healthcare provider, to conduct some initial nutrition appointments on site. It does include clinical visits. So basically what we're doing is we're bringing that person who conducts the lab work as well as the clinician on site for your first appointment. As you're probably aware, hopefully, nutrition appointments are covered 100% by your state health plan, both for 80/20 plan members as well as 70/30 plan members. So those appointments are always covered 100%. The benefit of this is that you'll have that first doctor's appointment within your school or division. So we're starting at the School of Government on August 19th. It's not exclusive to the people who work there. If you want to travel to the School of Government, they're providing free parking. And then we're going to move to other schools and divisions this fall. If you are interested in having a clinician come to your workplace, please contact me. We just need 6 people dedicated to participate to have this come to your workplace. Once we have that, we'll get that established and we'll get that ready to go. But let me know if you have any questions about that. And we're looking forward to just making that first step to start meeting with a nutritionist a little bit easier for employees. We did have a healthy cooking demo virtually last month, a couple weeks ago. So we'll be promoting that recipe in the newsletter. It's a twist on potato salad, a healthier version. There's a quick 12-minute video as well as the recipe that will be in the newsletter. In addition, you're probably no stranger to the program Eat Smart, Move More, Weigh Less. They also have a Prevent Diabetes program. That's a year-long program. And it has been offered essentially free for people who already have a diagnosis of pre-diabetes or are at high risk for diabetes. The free portion of that program will be sunsetting in September. So if it's something you've been thinking about enrolling or know anyone who could benefit for it, it's for anyone in the state of North Carolina. You pay $30 up front, you get $30 returned to you if you have good attendance throughout the years. But that program will not be offered for free after the month of September. So I do want to bring that to your attention. Moving to childcare, we've opened up the Helping Heals registration for fall. That's going to stay open till August 11th. And that is a collection of students and employees who want to assist UNC affiliates with childcare, pet care, and senior care, either on a voluntary basis or a paid for service basis. So that list will be updated for the fall later this month. In addition, the University Child Care Center, they're open for enrolling children for fall. They did let me know they have openings for kids that are 3.5 years old to 5 years old for their kindergarten prep program. So if you have a child in between that age and are interested, the University Child Care Center is the closest thing that we have to childcare on site. It's located by the Friday Center for some of you that may be on your way to work, but it's relatively close by to campus. It's exclusive for university employees as well as UNC Health employees' families. And then if you were not aware of this, one of the things we're highlighting in the newsletter later today is that August is actually National Make a Will Month. Perhaps this is something that you don't have in place. Perhaps you have aging parents who do not have this in place. But I want to let you know that wills make everything easier for your family when you do pass away. So I encourage you to have it in place, and we'll be promoting the resources that are available to you. If you participate in the UNC System Life Insurance, there are free online resources that pull up the legal document and walk you through creating a will. We also, through our Perks Connect discount program, you have access to a discounted Legal Shield, which is a monthly membership. But if you do participate in Legal Shield, will prep is included in part of the membership. So you can work directly with an attorney to get a will set up and finalized. And then if you're a member of the State Employees Credit Union, they have an estate planning program as well. It's not free, but it is discounted at a lower rate than what it is for if you were to have it done outside on your own with an attorney. So they have fees for individuals as well as married couples, but they are discounted. And then if you want to talk about financial planning or retirement, I want to let you know that TIA has set up their schedule for the fall. They'll be coming to AOB on a monthly basis to meet with people in person. Of course, you can always schedule those virtual appointments too, but their schedule is to be here the second Tuesday of every month. So know that they're available to meet with you. As far as discounts we're promoting this month, we're promoting some back to school discounts that are available through the Working Advantage discounts. We also have we're promoting and established a discount with Method Learning. That is college prep. If you have a child that's in their senior year or even their freshman year of high school, this is a tutoring program, college prep program. There's a lot of great resources, and those are discounted for employees. So you'll see that in the newsletter later today, and that is 20% off. You also get 20% off of spot pet insurance. So I just wanted to remind people of that discount as well. So that was a lot. I have not been paying attention to the chat. So let me know if you have any questions.
Beware, that's a long chat. I've been trying to keep in line or reading through all of it. I think the most important question for you, I think, is this last one. Is there a website or somewhere we can get all this discount information? Because Stephen that asked this question, I don't know, is a delegate, if so he wouldn't get the information I send out to delegates. So is there somewhere on the HR website that all of this is posted?
There is. So when you go to the HR homepage, I love that Work Life and Wellness has its own tab now. So you'll go to that tab. It's right to the right of benefits. And when you hover over there, you'll see discount and perks. So click on that. That will give you some general pages to our larger discount programs. We have Working Advantage, Perks Connect, Blue 65 currently. Those are the big ones. And then the UNC exclusives are on different categories on that website. So that's where you can find those.
Sarah.
Two questions. Thank you, Jessica, for presenting all this. First question is, how was it decided to push so many weight loss programs? Like, was this based on state trends, like medical data? Was this upon request from employees? Like, what was how did that come to be? I'm kind of new to the university, and it feels like a lot. So that was.
I'm not sure if it's a lot or not. No, it wasn't based on any trends, just available resources. It's a state benefit that nutrition services are covered at 0%, and we're just trying to make it easier by bringing some clinicians here to campus this fall. So that is a new program. As far as the Eat Smart, Move More, Weigh Less, or Prevent Diabetes programs, those have been in existence for well over 10 years. So I'm not sure what the initiation, what was the reason for the initiation of those, but historically, there's nutrition and weight management has been of interest for state employees overall.
Thank you. Second part of that question is, has it been considered or does it already exist for people with eating disorders for whom seeing this constantly is very triggering? Is there an opt-out part of maybe the newsletter where we can get everything but the weight loss pushes?
There's not. So the only weight loss program that will be in this current newsletter will be the new nutrition program. It is a lifestyle medical program, so it's not just for weight loss, but it does include nutrition visits. It could also be for managing pre-diabetes or diabetes. The also Eat Smart, Move More program is for preventing diabetes. So this is type 2 diabetes, of course. So weight certainly plays a factor in that, but unfortunately there's no way to select what's in your WorkWell newsletter or not. I'm not sure if Hillary's on here or not, but I'm not sure if employees can opt out of the newsletter. There is a lot of good information in there, but I do know there's no way that you can opt out of different articles of the newsletter.
Great questions. I want to bring in something that was throughout the chat, quite a bit in the chat around the Wellbeing Day conversation. So this has been an issue for the past several years, that Wellbeing Days have been in existence, and that the no meeting days sometimes gets communicated out to supervisors, sometimes it doesn't, and it's a pretty inequitable distribution across campus. I think HR and Linc and Jessica, you guys' team, does disseminate it to the senior leadership and dean's level, but it depends on the unit whether it gets out to boots on the ground employees, that this is something that the university is encouraging. So I would say, Linc did mention that this is going to be communicated out, and usually Becky sends an all-campus email. My advice as employee forum delegates is to make sure that you share that with your constituencies and forward that out to, like, liberally, so that to make sure it tries to reach as many of our constituents as possible, and that they can communicate that in that kind of communication from Becky and her team, that this is something that supervisors should be encouraging. So I think it's on both HR and us to do that work of trying to disseminate out things, because it does go to all campus and it does go to senior leaders, but I think we need to do some kind of follow-up pushing of that message with our constituencies, because we have seen it doesn't get to every employee depending on supervisor preference. So I encourage everyone to do some of that work. Yes. And Samara, you had a question in the chat about also how will wellness days affect the staff who work in clinics? Can you expand upon that a little bit, Samara? Are you saying that, like, y'all can't take
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so my question for that is, so I work for the Adams School of Dentistry, and I know that our students have those wellness days, but they still keep clinics open. So I want to know how that will affect our residents and also our staff members who work in the clinic area.
A great question. Rebecca, I know you were on the group that looked at well-being days and kind of looking at changes and whether or not they were working well or not. Is that something you could pass along to that team that's looking at that, or is that work done?
Yeah, I mean, the committee work is done, and I know there is going to be additional communication coming out at some point. that was brought up as a big concern, that it really doesn't work well for, folks that are patient facing, where they don't necessarily have those well-being days. The suggestions were for managers, supervisors, and leaders, senior administration into that area, to find ways that they can incorporate well-being options for their staff, whether that be identifying another day for their staff. I know here at the law school, we don't have the same days as main campus. And so we have to be kind of mindful of that, in terms of, we might have a well-being day, but we may have a main campus meeting because it's not a well-being day there. But working with supervisors to have that flexibility to either identify another day or find other ways to support staff on those days, whether it be a group lunch, or whether it be, a break during the day where folks get together and do something that's, kind of team building. But that would depend on the individual area.
Yeah, one of the big pieces of confusion as I was on that committee with Rebecca as well is that it is a work day. No meeting doesn't mean that it's not a work day. I hope it's clear that students and employees, we function on different calendars. So even though it's a no meeting day for folks who might have meetings on that day, depends on who you are and what role you serve. The encouragement is to make sure that employees are feeling appreciated on that day or another day. As I'd mentioned, I gave the dates for the fall. Those are set in place. The dates for the spring may change, and we have not gotten any updates on any decisions being made for the future. All we did was propose recommendations for staff. So some of those recommendations is that perhaps in the future, whether they're called well-being days or just no meeting days for us, perhaps they might be on different days than what the students observe on the academic calendar. Those decisions have not been made yet. Also, with different groups that are not office-based, what can they do? That's not going to be decided by HR, but it is going to be encouraged that that workplace hopefully has something in place to make employees feel appreciated during those days.
Yeah, Amber's point is one that I vibe with. Appreciate no meeting days so that I can get work done and focus on emails, which in turn also helps in my well-being. I feel that 100%. It's an individual employee's preference on how they spend and prioritize their well-being days. I think the no meetings concept is to allow employees the time to spend doing well-being type things and prioritizing their well-being and whatever that looks like for them. Because some employees, if they have meetings scheduled on a day, cannot spend time doing that. So it's not meant to be punitive to folks that don't have meetings usually. It's more to give folks the flexibility to actually utilize that as a well-being opportunity for staff. It doesn't mean you won't be working that day. It just means you can be doing well-being and concentrating on well-being. Does that make sense? No, the equity across campus is something I mentioned before. It doesn't trickle down to all employees. It depends on where you're at. So doing our work as employee forum delegates to try and get the word out there and to try and encourage supervisors with that communication from Becky and the leadership team that this is important to senior leadership will kind of give supervisors the knowledge that this is something that main campus cares about, so that we can try and diminish as much as possible like lack of supervisor support across campus. So David, you've had your hand up for a while. I'm so sorry. We've been having a conversation.
No problem. I was just trying not to fall asleep. I was going to add to what Jessica said with the dietitian visit. It's not just weight loss. If you need like specialized diet for low sodium, they'll help with that. If you have a medical condition such as cancer where you need to have more calorie dense things, will help you with that, or you are just if you're thin and need calorie dense foods, I'll help you with that. I know somebody had a organ transplant that went to them to find out what they could eat, and somebody that was training for athletic events went there to get a dietitian program. So it's not just about weight loss, it's about nutrition.
You, David. And looking at the newsletter now, in the preview session, it is weight loss is not mentioned in the newsletter article at all. It's employee nutrition counseling program, a nutrition program that meets your lifestyle. The information is also on the website under, if you click work, life, and wellness, that tab, it's on that homepage, but it's focused on nutrition counseling program. For some that means weight loss, for others it means, if you have diabetes, that's a serious condition that is very much, it's important that you eat properly to manage that chronic condition to avoid a negative outcome with that.
Liz, did you have your hand up? It went down. I don't know if you had a question.
Nah, not really. I'm working with diabetic eye patients. There's a lot of emphasis on what people eat, and there's a lot of tone deafness about how sedentary people's jobs are, including a commute. So I echo that there's never anything wrong with thinking about inclusion and language that includes everybody, and I don't just mean abilities or healthcare needs.
All right, folks. Any other questions for Jessica? As always, Jessica, if you'll share the updates, I'll get them out to delegates and we can push them out in our constituencies.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Oh, wait, Sarah's got one last question. Sarah.
Sorry, I did just for my notes, and this may come out in the piece that you're about to share with us, but what are the hours for the childcare? Do they include hours that would be helpful to like early first shift people, or is it just like a 8 to 5, 9 to 5 thing?
It isn't, I don't have the specific hours, but I know it's not just specifically work time, and there's flexibility in the hours that was in the original article, but I'll have to include that in my notes and share it back with Katie with the notes. I don't have the specific hours off the top of my head. If I find them before the meeting, I'll drop them in the chat.
Thank you so much for all of those helpful updates, Jessica. Appreciate it. Okay. Keith, you had something? We can't hear you, sir.
Oh yeah, I'm not talking.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking to myself, but
okay.
We're good. I mean,
okay.
Jessica's the GOAT, but other than that, we're good.
It's a GOAT, that's for sure. Okay, so we're moving on to the next portion of our agenda, which is our consent agenda. A reminder to our newer folks, newer delegates, consent agenda is pretty much all of the stuff that we're not going to discuss in depth or in detail. I will say there's a big caveat that I'm going to make the executive decision to pull the forum committees out of the consent agenda this time around, and we'll go through committee updates because we do have time. We don't have old or new business this time around. So I'm going to pull those. So really the only thing left on the consent agenda is our June meeting minutes, which Matt sent out a couple days ago. So hopefully you all have had a chance to review those. So that's the only thing under consideration on the consent agenda. So what's going to happen is we'll have a motion to approve, a second, we'll take a vote to approve the consent agenda with the meeting minutes within. Actually, we'll have discussion first, then a vote, and then we'll move on. So all of that said, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion, Katie. James, thank you.
Oh.
And Charlissa, is that you?
Yes.
All right, any discussion about the consent agenda? Hearing none. All of those in favor of, actually, we'll do this by acclamation. So any opposed to approval of the consent agenda, which includes the June minutes? Hearing no opposition, the consent agenda passes by acclamation. Thank you all for your help reviewing those minutes. Okay, so with that said, we're going to go through some committee updates. This is our first meeting of the academic year, so there might not be a whole lot related to committees just yet, because I think folks are probably just starting to pick back up and start meeting again. But it will be a nice opportunity for newer folks to hear from the new committee chairs, and especially if y'all have meetings coming up for folks that are interested in attending. Before we do committee updates, Keith and Matt, I think, worked while I was out the past couple of days to get committee service updated on the website. So your primary committee selection that you submitted as a part of that Qualtrics should be now on the website. So if your name is listed somewhere it's not supposed to be, or you are not on there and you think you should be, please reach out to Matt Banks and we'll get that corrected. But otherwise, it's a great tool for the committee chairs to use in making sure they're communicating with the full committees and making sure that folks get all of the information that they need. So all of that said, Keith, your hand's up. Go ahead.
Yes, this time I am talking. So employee forum members, please take a look at that at the committees. Make sure your name is where it's supposed to be. If it is not, let Matt know, get that corrected, because that is a part of what we will use when we do our audits for which we talked about prior, like a few months ago. The membership committee will do audits and ask the committee chairs for attendance rosters for their meetings, because what has happened in the past is that people have not met their committee duties, and so you're essentially taking up a spot of somewhere else where someone would actually be doing the work. So we will be doing audits of that, and potentially asking people to roll off if they're not meeting the guidelines that you signed on to be a part of the employee forum. Thank you.
Yeah, and I will second everything Keith said. This is not meant to be punitive. This is really because we did have a lot of interest in serving on the forum this year. And the work on the committees that we do is really the most essential part and where a lot of the work happens. So really the service on the committees is a really important part. And we want to make sure that folks are doing that required piece of service. As otherwise, as Keith said, there's folks that are waiting in the wings that really could be contributing in your stead if you're not able to serve on a committee while being a delegate on the forum. So don't want to punish, but just make sure that folks are recognizing the importance of the committee service portion of our bylaws. Okay. Thank you, Keith, for all of that. Keith and Tiffany and Matt, our trustee membership and assignments leaders, for keeping us in check.
Hey, Katie, just so I can go ahead and throw this in there and we don't have to readdress this committee. There are people who, I just want to say to the delegates who are logged on and you just have your first name, please make sure that you list first and last name. Because for attendance purposes, we're trying to make sure that we can track that. And I inbox people when they have just the first name, but people don't always respond to me. They may not see that I sent them something in the chat. So if everybody could just remember to make sure your name is as it should be on the screen, I appreciate it.
And that's a good housekeeping reminder, like even moving forward at the monthly meetings, to make sure that y'all are keeping that updated. Tiffany takes great attendance at our meetings, but we want to make sure y'all's attendance gets counted so that we make sure we know you're here. And that's committee, or in addition to committee service, we are paying attention to who comes to the meetings, and you are required to come to meetings. And if you miss a certain number according to our bylaws, and you can reference that, we may reach out. So just all things to keep in mind. And thank you, Tiffany, for all of the work you do taking attendance. We appreciate you. Okay, communications and public relations, Shane and Joe. Updates from y'all.
Hi, everybody. We will have a issue of In Touch coming out soon. But if anybody has anything they'd like to include to start off the year, please let me know. We will have our first regular meeting. Where is it? I just had it up. August 19th. And we meet the third Monday of every month at 3:30. If people just want to pop in general. But I will also update the calendar invites for, I see there's a couple of new people on the website that I didn't get in our July meeting. So I will add everybody there and push that out. So everybody on the committee will have a calendar invite.
And for those who aren't familiar with the work communications and public relations does, that August 19th meeting was where we'll probably start talking about the scavenger hunt, which will happen. We do that every year at Employee Appreciation, which is in October. But there's a lot of work that goes into putting that on and reaching out to local businesses to get donations for prizes and all of that fun stuff. So we'll probably start planning that in August. So if you're interested in helping out with that, even if this isn't your primary committee, you're all welcome to join us. The scavenger hunt is always such a blast. So looking forward to having that again this year. So yeah. Thank you, Shane. Thanks, Joe. Anything else? Good. Book club is a portion of that committee. Is Vanessa or Natalia on the call?
I don't know if Vanessa's here today, but I can put the information in the chat. Our next book club meeting is going to be on September 26th at 12 noon. It is an in-person book club meeting. We're trying to have one in-person meeting during each semester. The rest of our events are virtual. In September, we're going to be discussing tomorrow, and lunch will be provided. I posted the registration link in the chat. Feel free to join us. We always have a really good time. Thanks, Katie.
No, thank you. And thank you for all of your work. I know that y'all have been doing some behind the scenes stuff to get the calendar set for the year of the books that we're going to have and the in-person stuff, and even getting some potential authors to come and join us for some of those. So a lot of work, but it's going to be really great. And we enjoyed last year's books a whole lot. So y'all, if you're new to the forum, come join the book club. It's so much fun. Okay. Community service, Allie or Teresa?
Hello. We keep no immediate updates as of now, but please keep your eyes peeled in the next week or so. I'm going to send out a survey to try, and I know we have quite a few new people in community service committee. So I'm going to try and send out a survey to try and find a time that works best for everybody or as many people as we can within the next week or so. We'll plan to try and start meeting at the end of August or mid-end August. So keep your eyes peeled in the next week for a survey.
So,
Hey, Katie.
Teresa.
It's Teresa. I'm sorry. My camera for some reason just failed on my phone and I'm not where I can get in front of my computer. I did want to add to that being that we did not do the Habitat for Humanity activity in the summer, we will be looking to do something hopefully in the fall where it's a little bit cooler outside. So I think that'll be something that will be coming out soon from us. And then I also plan to, and this is probably surprise, Allie, don't mean to surprise you, but I think we need to get a survey out regarding the holiday activity of whether we want to do the toy drive or the adopt a family, or if there's another option that we would like to consider. So just want to put those out there for that. Thank you.
We can definitely add that to our agenda for the first meeting. So that would be good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Discuss in the committee.
Thanks.
Yep. Thank you.
Is Renata on the call for blood drive?
I'm right here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, hello.
Hi. So blood drive, we have exciting news. So we have picked our dates. So our holiday Carolina blood drive will be December 11th. This will be at Fetzer Gym again. And then we'll have our Carolina blood drive April 30th at the Smith Center. Our first committee meeting will be August 13th at 11 a.m. In case anybody else would like to join, just send me an email and I can send you guys the invite. And we will be at the Employee Appreciation Day Expo, signing up people for appointments. So if you want to make an appointment and you're there, drop by our table.
And hopefully we can get the employee forum table right next to y'all's like we've done in the past couple of years, because it's always a fun time. And Matt did hopefully sign us up for the forum table. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I already emailed. They said they'll make sure we're right next to each other.
Yes, it's a party. We just have to have a party everywhere we go. The golf tournament, employee appreciation. It's, you know, it's a party.
It's a good time. Oh, and if you sign up for the blood drive while at employee appreciation, we do have a raffle. So hopefully you can get some good items from signing up and trying to save lives.
Awesome.
That's all I have.
Yay. Thank you. Arlene, any updates from the Carolina Community Garden?
Not so much, except the fact, despite the really egregious heat this summer, they have had volunteers out every volunteer work day. They have gotten a lot of work done in the garden. So yay.
Awesome.
And the party is tomorrow, according to Shayna.
Yeah, pool party tomorrow. I will say, didn't we have a forum work day earlier this summer? I don't know that we've had a meeting where we've discussed committee updates since then. So I just want to give a shout out to all the forum delegates that went out and volunteered in the garden. It's always such a good time, and they need staff volunteers a lot during the summer because students aren't around as much. So kudos to all of y'all.
It was luckily the coolest day of the week.
Yeah, not that it was cool, but
it was cool.
It was not cool that day. I'm sorry. I just have to say it wasn't, but it was a great experience.
Yeah.
Great experience.
It's always so fun. I was jealous of y'all. I couldn't go this year, unfortunately. Okay. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Sarah and Lori, any updates from y'all's group?
I feel like I've been talking a lot, so Gloria's here. I just don't want to open the floor for that, but we have set our cadence for first Mondays at 2. If you were unable to sign up, absolutely let us know. We're happy to have more folks. And I, separate from the DEI thing, but because we had talked about it and it felt like something I was capable of doing, there is now a survey for, hopefully this crew can pass it out to find out what the reservable rooms are across UNC that are hybrid capable. And there's like contact info, reserving info, hybrid capability info, all of that. So dropping the link, please share with, maybe that's, I don't know. Let me know if that doesn't work.
Yeah. Thank you for putting that together. Thank you so much. I will definitely include that when I email folks after this meeting. I'll make sure that that's on there, asking folks to fill that out. Yeah, that's something that we've been trying to work on for a while. And I think I appreciate y'all's help trying to get that off the ground and make sure we have a good list going. Awesome. Perfect. Okay. Leadership, education, and career development. Ellie and Siobhan. Anybody on the call? Ellie.
Hey y'all. Not a lot of update other than everything's a little delayed. Sorry about it. If you applied for a professional development grant, you received an email hopefully yesterday explaining that they'll be slightly delayed. And if you know somebody who did and they're still asking, you can tell them that hopefully early next week we'll have decisions. And then also the same for Carolina Family Scholarship, that should be having those in today to Matt. So sorry, busy time of year. Somehow,
Busy
even
time
though
of
it's
year.
supposed to be the not busy time of year.
Time of year, but also like they keep changing professional development grants on us and the rules. So we have to read everything before we award these like every year. It's a lot of work. So kudos and shout out to you and Siobhan for all of your help pulling that together, and to Matt for helping us get these executed. And we're prioritizing getting this Carolina Family Scholarship out today, because I know folks have aid deadlines coming up. So yeah.
If you want to come to meetings, let me know. We haven't set standing ones for the year, but we'll do that next month.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you both. Membership and engagement we talked about already, so that is done. Personal issues, Sharon and Greg.
Hi, we have not had our first meeting yet, but hopefully in August, just as everyone else has voiced, this has been a busy summer, so we've not been able to do that. We have been getting a lot of feedback, and so good items that will be added to agenda discussions for upcoming meetings. And I did put in chat also, and this is something if you didn't notice it, thanks to Sarah Green, she had shared with the committee the details for getting a free bus pass and the link associated with that. So please look back in the chat and pull that out if you didn't already do so.
And Matt is going to save the chat, by the way, and get it to me so I can include some of those helpful resources that were shared in my post-meeting email. I just know that like Amy's contact information and Chris's was shared, so I'll make sure that salient information, and again, I'll be sensitive to everything that was in the chat, but I know folks shared helpful resources there, and I want to make sure that that gets sent out to folks and shared. So yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Sharon. Keith?
Yes, can we circle back to membership and engagement? Because I talked about the membership part, did not talk about the engagement. I feel like this falls under engagement, so we'll just do it here. Today, you all should be getting a Qualtrics survey from Matt to sign up for the football game tickets. Each person is allotted 4. That includes you, not you and an additional 4. It's you and an additional 3. The game is September the 7th, and it is at 3:30 p.m. I will also send out details later for those who are going to attend about when the recognition is going to be and what time to meet and where you need to meet and all of that. But I felt like this is an engagement piece, and really hope that you all can go show up. It is usually a very good time. So we have that.
It is indeed. And it's always great to make sure we recognize all of the work you're doing, and the football game is a fun way to do that. So yeah. Oh, Jessica, thank you for putting that in the chat. She found the hours of the childcare. Thank you. Yes, Liz. If you're out of town but your family wants to use the tickets, you can sign up and get tickets and get them to your family for sure. We'll miss you though, because we get on-field recognition during the game for the delegates, so it's always a fun one. And again, I said this last time, it's not on a religious holiday, which is always great. Very inclusive. Okay. Recognition and awards. Shayla or Charlie, any updates? I feel like this is our lull time of year, but
I'm not sure if Shayla is on, but we don't have any updates.
I figured. Thank you. Rules, is Jacob on the call? I don't know that we have any rules updates to share. I don't think Jacob's on the call.
He is not.
Staff Assembly. Shayna, our trusty Staff Assembly Chair, any updates to share from Staff Assembly?
Hi, everybody. So the Staff Assembly just met at Western Carolina, where we had a roundtable with President Hans. We talked about DEI and our hope that these programs will not go away, that each campus we will continue to honor DEI and the efforts that we have been making. More will be revealed as we have those conversations. We do know that some positions have been eliminated on some campuses, and that is disappointing. But we invited President Hans to the meeting to have that honest and candid conversation. So we'll continue to have that conversation as this process unfolds. I know they talked a little bit about how this is going to be rolled out. And there's guidance now, so we will keep you informed as we know, as that continues. I also continue to advocate for salary increases next month. Again, I will be speaking to the Board of Governors directly. This is televised via WUNC. So if there are any issues or concerns that you would like me to address in that platform, please let me know. Please contact me directly and just send me your thoughts or concerns. The Chancellor's Cup golf tournament is next month. Oh my God, it's upon us. There is a Chancellor's reception the night before. So if you are on the committee and helping out, please also come to the reception. We will try to add a little joy to the effort in that respect. And I think those are all of my updates, Keith. James, Katie, did I forget anything?
Rebecca, you
I don't think so. Did you talk elections, that we will be doing elections at the next meeting in October?
Correct. We will be doing elections in October, and some of your trustee delegates here have been nominated and have actually accepted the nomination for, I think, may I make this?
Sure. I mean, I got nominated for delegate at large and I accepted that nomination. I've also got nominated for other things that I declined, and it happened multiple times and I don't know who's doing it and they need to stop. I declined the chair-elect nominations multiple times. And I think Keith did the same.
And
I declined some and accepted delegate at large. So I will be running with / maybe against Katie. Hopefully people pick both of us. Who knows? Those of you
Chapel Hill.
Those of you that sent me your list, your name to add to the list of volunteers for the golf tournament, look for more correspondence from me at a later date. I haven't been able to go through it, but if you sent me your name, I have your name. We're all good.
Rebecca.
I was happily not nominated for anything, and I'm very grateful for that. But that's not why I had my hand up. I did want to share that as a result of some of our communications with folks about the health benefit change, I was able to communicate with the state treasurer's office regarding access to gender affirming care, particularly for adults, because it has been very poorly communicated as to whether or not that coverage is available. I was pointed to the state health plan booklet. There are 2 of them, one for each health plan. Well, 3 of them, but only 2 that apply to us. The other applies to retirees. It took me a very long time, but I finally did find the reference that they gave me, buried under the items not covered page. And gender affirming care, because of the 4th Circuit injunction that was put in place in 2022, gender affirming care, particularly for adults, is covered currently, last year and this year and next year, probably until it goes to the Supreme Court. So for those of you who have adult children or who are adults yourself, well, all of us are adults ourselves. Sorry, that was insulting. Well, maybe. I don't always like to identify with being an adult, but it is covered. So please know that coverage is available to you. In terms of coverage for minors, there is another case wending its way through based on General Assembly legislation denying care to minors. So that is still a little mushy. I haven't been able to get a straight answer on that. But if you're looking for information on that or know families who are, feel free to send them to me. I can point them to where it is. But like I said, it is buried. I have asked that it be moved to the what is covered page, and that the language they've used, which is very, well, let's just say it's not appropriate language that they've used. I find it offensive. It refers to treatment for sex changes And that's not what it is. It's gender affirming care. And so I asked that they modify that language and moved it to the page where it lists what is covered, as opposed to having to go to the it is not covered page to find that indeed it is covered. So I don't know if any of that has happened. I haven't heard back from my follow-up email, but I did make those efforts in regards to getting that information out, because this was the first time I got a clear answer, and I've been asking the question repeatedly for 2 years. So this was helpful for me, and hopefully it will be helpful to some of you and to others that you know who are trying to get a clear answer on this.
Awesome. Thank you for doing that work. And yes, it was very enlightening to hear the answer you got of it's in the not covered, but has a little asterisk by it saying it is covered, which gives a certain perception that they want it to not be covered. So yeah, very disappointing, but yes.
But exactly, that is exactly the message it gives. I agree.
Yes. Okay. Teresa, your hand's up.
Trying to get to the unmute button. Questions about, Shanna mentioned the function the night before for the golf tournament.
Yeah.
Will you send out the details for that? And what is the dress code? Just curious.
Sure. That's a Keith and Shayna question. I'm not quite sure.
I beg your pardon?
So yes, we will send out the information the night before, once we get it finalized. And I would assume it's business casual. I can't imagine. I mean,
it's at the Chancellor's house, right?
Okay, full disclosure, I don't know what we're talking about. I was sending an email.
The reception at the Chancellor's home.
The Chancellor's reception will be at Quail Hill.
Which is
okay, like it's for a golf tournament, so it's not like anything super formal. I'm not going to tell adults how to dress, but like have yourself together. Like like I'm going to wear khaki pants and a polo shirt, so somewhat / casual, like
business casual.
I would wear this to work, but I also feel very comfortable in it, like
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, yeah.
I think the details are still like being finalized. So like Shayna said, once they do finalize that, we'll send out information to folks. So if you want to join us in celebration of the golf tournament happening the next day, we'll get that information out to folks. Okay, awesome. All righty. The next section is the university committee updates. Given that we just named our new folks to university committees, a lot of this probably won't have updates because I haven't had a chance to connect y'all for new folks that are on those committees with your peoples yet, and I will be sure to do that in August, so that we get y'all named and on those groups. But I'm not going to go through and read through every single one of these, but if y'all serve on one of these and have updates to share with folks, speak now or forever hold your peace.
Katie, this is James.
Hey, James.
My audio would not work when the Chancellor was on, or Interim Chancellor, but I want to speak out about the pit stormwater improvement project. So that was probably, in the years I've been on the Building and Grounds Committee, one of the seemed to be bigger debates, issues. A lot of the drainage and everything is just so bad that it could cause problems for other buildings surrounding the area. So the pit will change as we know it. Student groups, as I understand it, were reached out to, some stakeholders. Yeah, it just seems that was one of the biggest things that's come up in the Building and Grounds Committee since I've been on. And a lot of people have sent me emails, give me feedback. A lot of people are not happy. Some don't care. So it just became a bigger thing than I anticipated it would, but I want to speak out about that. We have not had an agenda pretty much all summer. I think something will be on the agenda in September.
Great. Thank you for your service on that group. And hopefully they've been engaging y'all as a part of this fiscal master plan update, but I'm not sure if they have or not. I'm not quite sure what the relationship is between those two things, but that is one of the 4 Chancellor priorities, is that fiscal master plan. You would think that a group like Buildings and Grounds that already brings together the expertise from across campus would be leveraged, but I could be wrong.
I haven't heard anything, so.
I would assume I'm wrong then. Awesome. Thank you for that update, James. Anybody else for university committee updates? Again, I think more will be forthcoming on those once I get y'all connected and those pick back up as the new academic year gets underway. Sarah, your hand's up.
Is the information on the website all updated, like the names of all the new people?
It should be. If it's not, let me know.
I will. Thank you.
Yeah.
Matt has done the update.
I think she's talking about university committee. There's a section that talks about who our representatives are on these university committees. And I think I put this information in there, but I could be wrong. I don't know what happened yesterday, y'all. So like, asking me what I did a couple weeks ago is dicey.
You know what you did yesterday.
I know.
August 16th, deadline to fill out the Qualtrics for the tickets. Just want to throw that out.
And I will include a link to that and a reminder to that in my announcement, my email afterwards, summarizing all the things. Because we talked about a lot today. I try, for newer folks, I try and do one of those post-meeting emails after each of these meetings to kind of give delegates all the information at a kind of, easy place. And it includes the recording link to this meeting because we always record the meetings. It includes any presentations that were given if we have slides from those. It includes Jessica's wellness updates. Like all of that stuff is kind of there and accessible in one place, including some of the resources that were shared in the chat and elsewhere. So it's helpful and it's something that you can easily share out with your constituencies and get out the information that we hear in the forum with our constituencies a little bit better. Awesome. Thanks, Chassie. I'll look at the stack. The stack thing is not up to date yet because we still haven't gotten the new chancellor representatives named. So the stack thing is in flux. Y'all are named for sure for our 9 employee forum representatives. But until I get the other folks that are going to complement y'all on stack this coming year, I haven't updated the roster for stack. More to come on that. We did just set stack meetings for the year, and I'm trying to get with the chancellor's office to send out letters to the new delegates on stack to thank them and give them details about stack for this coming year. So more to come in the next few weeks. The first stack meeting isn't until September. So yeah. Things just going down in the chat. Did someone say pool party? Yes, a reminder. Shayna just sent a reminder out. Rain or shine, come join us at Shayna's house. It's always a good time. Hopefully it won't rain too much, but even if it does, yeah, she's got covered areas. It's good. Can the pit be turned into a retaining pond and have filtration in place so it becomes a pool? I mean, pool party in the pit, that sounds fun, but it sounds kind of gross because that water gets real nasty. Fishing pond. Okay. We're getting creative now. Anybody else have any updates? Yes, Charlie, the stack meeting in September just got set yesterday. It is, hold on. While I pull that up, Arlene, you had a question.
It's not a question, it's just something I've learned since I'm now working in the pit stop. As long as you're have an onion and are UNC affiliated, you can get anything printed that the print stop can handle. So there's someone who comes by and has posters printed of his photographs.
Yeah.
So
I love it. September 4th, and I just closed it again. It is at 9 a.m. September 4th, 9 a.m. Again, the invites and all of that stuff will go out to stack members once we get the full roster set. But hold the date for September 4th.
Hi, I don't know about talking out of turn. I have a question. Okay.
Sure.
So, the lady that just spoke, what was her name? Alamar? I was trying to get it from the top of the lady.
Arlene?
Arlene. Okay. Arlene. Okay. Now, what were you saying about anyone that's a UNC employee or student can get, prints from the print shop? Like,
if there is something that the print stop can handle, brochures, pictures, although there's limited on pictures because you're better off going for Sunday Studio for some of it. But if you want it larger, like I said, a gentleman who comes and has his photographs turned into posters. There's someone else who has brochures done for their private business, but they're UNC, so they can do that.
Really? And is this a?
It's not free. You pay for it.
It's not free.
It's not free. You do pay for it.
Okay, but is it a discounted rate or?
Well, because it's a state supported, the prices are often less than like FedEx or whatever, which is
they
why
have better pricing.
It's competitive pricing for sure, but it's not like you get like a 10% discount or anything as a staff member.
Okay.
It's really competitive compared to like FedEx, whatever, which is why it can only, you have to have UNC affiliation to be a customer.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, competitive is good.
Yeah. If you go to
business cards, like all kinds of stuff that they do over there. So
okay, so this is at the UNC print shop, right?
Yeah, third floor of student stores.
Okay, gotcha.
Arlene, because Arlene's desk is right there.
Okay, I'm coming to see you, Arlene.
Yeah, printstop.unc.edu if you want to take a look and see what some of the possibilities are.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So speaking of meetings, when I was talking about STAC is September 4th at 9 a.m. We do have a Vice Chancellor's representatives meeting coming up in September. It's on September 12th from 2 to 3 p.m. Matt usually sends out the call for questions for that meeting to build out the agenda, usually late the month prior. So later in August, we'll send out that Qualtrics to get folks to submit questions for that September 12th meeting. All of that said, we haven't had time in our packed agendas the past couple of times, but I always like to end when we do have time with a section that I've been calling It Takes a Village, Highlights and Kudos, giving folks on this call time to kind of shout out folks either in your department, folks on the forum, anybody that you want to shout out. You're seeing really great stuff happen across the university, staff, faculty, students, whoever, just giving some time to shine a light on the awesome stuff that we're seeing across campus. So unmute yourself, raise your hand, whatever you want, and feel free to share.
I just want to say I miss you guys. It's been
Jenna,
a minute.
hello.
I've been on here. I'm still here, but kudos. You guys have gotten even better. I love it. It's been a minute, but I snuck up on here, but
I love it. You're welcome to join us anytime, you know.
Thank you guys.
David, your hand's up.
I just want to give a shout out real quick to Teresa, my former boss. Even though I haven't worked for her for a year, she still regularly checks in on me, make sure I'm doing okay, things like that. So it's just nice to have that type of caring person here at the university and on the employee forum.
We love Teresa.
Oh, thank you, David. That's so sweet. I really appreciate that. And right back at you. You check on me too. So it's a great relationship.
I want to give a shout out to Keith and Tiffany, although Tiffany just had to hop off because Keith and Tiffany keep me sane and afloat. Rebecca, I apologize. It's less a kudos and more an apology for the ride you're about to take with us. So
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I've got an awesome team to work with.
Yes. Yes. Anybody else? Any other kudos?
I just want to say I have the best staff on campus here at Exercise and Sports Science. By
Don't fight
far,
me. Don't fight me. I got the
Exercise and Sports Science staff rocks.
awesome. Anybody else? A shout out to all of the folks who came out and joined us at the retreat in July. That's always so much fun. And a shout out to us for being so successful on that like seesaw activity thing. I like the shock on her face, like at how quickly we did that one exercise, like priceless. I love it. We're so talented.
Actually, I want to give a note of sympathy to parking, transportation and parking right now, because they're going through it.
They are. It's been a struggle. Keith and I were on that committee that helped put together the 5-year plan. And I'm proud of the work we did. I know not everybody is thrilled and happy with the outcome. It is what it is. I think we did good work and got the best possible reality for as many folks as possible. Fair, equitable, and we made improvements to the last policy. Not everything is perfect in it, and we couldn't get everything that everybody would want. But I'm proud of the work we did. So thank you, Keith, for that.
Thank you, Katie.
Transportation and parking for doing
Yes.
that. We are not thrilled. I think Keith and I are not thrilled by the communications from transportation and parking to get out and do an educational campaign, because part of that 5-year plan was supposed to be an educational piece and component to make sure that folks understood and recognized like what this plan means and what it meant for everyone. The communications piece has been not good. So we will give that feedback to them in earnest, because we are hearing it from a lot of y'all and from staff across campus, and we hear it and we recognize it, and we'll make sure that they're doing their best to get out the word. And yeah. RIP flex permits. That's all I'll say.
Yes.
I know that folks are gonna miss them, but it is what it is. Yeah.
If you're under $70,000, just buy the full permit. It's cheaper than.
Yeah, except for folks that we're truly working 3 days a week. The daily option isn't cheaper for them.
Yeah. If
so-
you're working 3 days a week, you may as well get the full pass.
Yeah.
If you're sporadic, then just do the daily.
Yeah.
Lots of questions about that. And angry emails.
And folks were abusing it. Just know that. If folks
Yes.
were abusing that flex permit and paying less for it and still coming.
People pay for 2 flex days and come 5 days a week.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's just like at Walmart. You pay more for stuff when people steal.
The dishonesty affects everybody. So I hate it. I don't love it, but alas, in a reality in which we have to pay for parking, I think we got the best possible outcome for the most people. So yeah. I don't want to end this meeting talking about parking. Y'all, who brought up that parking? Kudos. I'm just kidding. All right.
I'll end the meeting with saying kudos to pool party tomorrow, and hopefully the weather holds up.
Same. Oh, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Awesome. All right, folks. Well, thank you all. And again, this new Friday thing is an experiment, but I really like the energy and the vibes. We're ending the week with one another, which I love, because you guys are my favorite people. So, yeah, thanks for doing this with us. For housekeepers and third shift folks that are on the call, I was made aware that this is like the start of y'all's weekend. So thank you for being with us as you can to close out your week completely. And I wish everybody a great weekend. I see Tyrone just popped up. Hello. Oh, you're muted, sir.
I'm actually out here doing a landscaping job, so I've been listening to you the whole time.
I appreciate you, Tyrone. We're thinking about you. Hopefully it's not too hot out there just yet.
Yeah, it's about 100 degrees.
Oh. Stay cool,
I'll be
man.
all
Stay
right.
cool, stay hydrated. Y'all have a good weekend. Thank you all and looking forward to seeing that.
Stay safe, y'all.
I move that we adjourn.
Oh,
second.
Rebecca. By acclamation, anybody opposed?
I think we're
Absolutely
just
not
stand for a little bit.
opposed. Bye.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Katie.
Hey, did we record? Oh yeah, we're recording right now.
Yeah, we always record and we'll get that
Okay.
recording out to
No,
me.
like this new Zoom, it's some of the stuff is moved, so I didn't see it where I normally look. So now I'm okay.